Chapter 6 in our Holt textbook, and Chapter 6 is all about percents. And the first lesson, 6-1, is Introduction to Percent. So we learned some very basic things about percents. Now first, before we get into the actual homework examples, because this whole series is to help both parents and kids out on homework, before we get into those specific examples, I just want us all to understand what percent means. If we break down percent into two parts, I think this is the part that most of us really understand, because we deal in dollars and cents. Cents has to do with 1/100th of a dollar. And then there's words like century, 100 years, centipede, 100 legs, centimeter, 1/100th of a meter, and ciento, which is 100 in Spanish. So if we understand that cent maybe is 100, and then per we understood from the last chapter, remember when we talked about per with ratios and especially rates, miles per hour and miles per 1 hour. Remember, in rates, after the per, it was for each 1 hour. So if we were at 67 mph, that was 67 miles per 1 hour, where the per meant that fraction bar right there, 67 miles per 1 hour. Well, percent is basically kind of like a rate. For every 100 parts, how many parts do we have? Now let's just go over here to our first percent here, okay? So let's say we have 15% of something. That means out of, let's say, 100 parts, 15% would be about this much. We have a 10 by 10 grid, and 15% means out of 100 parts in this whole, 15 of those are counted. Okay? So that's just a little basic introduction to 6-1. All right? Okay. The homework workbook, it's divided up into 3 sections. The first section is way too easy, okay? So if we go, if we look at the first section, it's problems 1 through 3, and in each one of the problems they give a grid that is 10 by 10, so it has 100 boxes altogether. And what you have to do is, oh, it's really tough, you have to count up how many of those little boxes are shaded. Okay, so right here it's 2 rows of 10 plus 2. That is 22 boxes are shaded out of 100. So that is equal to 22%. That's as hard as 1 through 3 gets. Okay. Now 4 through 15, it's going to be a little difficult. There are some very easy problems. But then there's 3 or 4 tricky types of problems here. And so I'll teach you how to do all those. But basically, we'll have things like this, where the workbook gives you, okay, convert 17% into a reduced fraction. And so this number is prime, and we're going to learn anytime it's prime, you can't reduce the fraction anymore. So there it is, 17 over 100. Okay, that's fully reduced. Now, 30% converted to a fraction. Okay, what we always do, just like this, we always put the percent number over 100. And then we see if it can be reduced. Now, 30 over 100, we can take 10 into each of these, and we get a reduced fraction of 3/10. Real easy, right? And if you're someone who just wants to go like this, 3/10. Okay? And then this will lead us into way more examples in just a moment. to go through problems 4 through 15. Okay? Now, in problems 4 through 15, the very easiest problems are always those that are prime numbers with respect to the percent numbers. Because nothing can go into 17 except 1 and 17, so it cannot be reduced over 100. So 17% is going to be 17 over 100. There's no way to reduce it by taking a number dividing into 17 and 100. 43. Is 43 like 6 times 7 or 8 times 9? No, it's only 1 times 43. So the most we can reduce this is 43 by 100. And then same thing with 91, okay? 91 over 100, okay? I hope 91's prime. If it's not, I guess I made a little boo-boo. Now if we go over to this central group of numbers, they are not prime. But what they are is they are numbers that cannot be divided into 100. Now let's take 39. The only numbers besides 1 and 39 are 13 times 3. Can any one of those numbers go into 100? No. And so we're going to get 39 over 100 because 3 and 13 can't be divided into there. Okay? 49 is 7 times 7. And 7 cannot be divided evenly into 100, so we can't reduce this. 49. 21 is 7 times 3. Both of those numbers, once again, cannot go into 100 evenly, so there's the final fraction. And then these are the same thing. This is 17 times 3, 11 times 3, and 7 times 11. 7, 11, 3, 17. None of those can go into 100. So this is 33 over 100, 51 over 100, and 77 over 100. Now, these 9 problems represent the various easiest problems to do for numbers 4 through 15. The next stage, we'll get to things where we have to compute a reduction. Okay? All right. Now, for problems 4 through 15 on homework page 6-1, one particular skill is really going to help here. And that is which numbers can go evenly into 100. This is really going to help us in reducing. So when we have to turn fractions into percents or percents into fractions, we have to know which numbers can go evenly into 100, okay? And so 50 can go evenly, like 2 half dollars go into a dollar. 25 goes in evenly, like quarters. 20 goes in evenly, 10, 5, 4, and 2. Now, some of you, your brains might think better in pairs. 50 times 2 is 100. 25 times 4 is 100. 20 times 5 is 100. And 10 times 10 is 100. So if we have something, say, like 40 over 100, we say, what's the biggest number that can go into here and here? And that's going to be 20. And then we can reduce this by saying 20 goes into here 2, 20 goes into here 5. So if 40% is 40 over 100, its reduced fraction is 2/5, because we know that 20 goes into 140. Okay? So these are key things to know for some of the tougher problems coming up. All right? So the Besides the prime numbers, or those numbers like 17%, which are just 17 over 100, besides those that need a little bit of work when we convert percentages to fractions, the easiest of those are 50, 25, and 75%. Because remember what the first thing we do is, we always put this number over 100. Okay? Now we go ahead and reduce. 50 can go into both of those. 150 over 2 50s. 25 goes into both of those. 125 over 425. And then 25 goes into here, kind of like quarters in money. 3 25-cent pieces over $1, which has 4. Okay? So to convert 50%, we get 1/2. To convert 25% to the reduced fraction is 1/4. And 75% is reduced to 3/4. Okay? Now four other very easy ones are the ones that end in 0 here. Okay? Now, notice also that these are odd. Because when they're even, like 20, 40, 60, 80, we can divide by 20. Those will be in the next level. But right here, 10 over 100, we reduce that to 1/10. 30%, 30 over 100 is 3/10. 70 over 100 is 7/10. And you may notice a little pattern here. When we're dealing with numbers like this, it's just like dealing in dimes. 10% is like 1 dime over 10 dimes. 30% is 3 over 10 dimes. 70% is 7 dimes over 10 dimes. And guess what? By now you just say, oh, well, this is easy. 9 over 10, right. 90 over 100, take that off, and our reduced fraction is 9/10. Okay? Bingo. Now, percentages that are just a little bit harder to turn into fractions might be these. Now notice we have the zeros here, but all of the tens numbers are all even. So what we're going to be able to do is to divide these by 20, because we know that there are 5 20s in 100. So this is going to be 5 on the bottom and 1 on top. 1 times 20, 5 times 20. So 40. 40 over 100. You know, I guess you could do this and then go 2 goes into 4 and 10, 2/5. Or you could just say 20 goes into here twice, 20 goes into here 5 times. 60. And if you want to do this, you can do that too. 20 goes into here 3, 20 goes into there 5. 80 over 100 is 4 20s over 5 20s. Okay? Now, if we shift over here, I'm going to show you that, let's say you don't reduce it by 20 at the very first. It's okay if you just reduce it by 10 at first. So if we reduce this by 10, we go 2 tenths. But then you have to make sure you have 2 even numbers. So you're going to have to reduce these by 2 each. So 2 goes into there 1, 2 goes into there 5. Okay? Same thing here. 60 into 100. You may not reduce it by 20, you might reduce it by 10. 10 goes into here 6, 10 goes into there 10. Oh, now these are both even, so we can reduce that again. Divide by 2, top and bottom, and get 3/5. So see how this is equal to that, And we did it different ways, but you can either divide by 20 once or divide by 10 and 2 to get the same answer. Okay? Another type of these problems where we have to convert percentages into fractions that are becoming even harder will be when we have 5 in the ones column. But you can't divide them by 25 or 20 or a 10. Instead, let's remember that 20 times 5 is 100. Remember how many nickels in a dollar? 20. So remember, 20 times 5 is 100. Now 15%. 15 over 100. Okay, now we say, how many times can 5 go into 15? 3. How many times can 5 go into 100? Hey, we know that by heart now, 20. So 15% reduces to 3/20. All right? Now 35%. 35 over 100. Hey, 5 goes into here, 7. 5 goes into the bottom, 20. 35% is 7/20. Okay? If we shift over here, I hope you are starting to get this pattern. 5 goes into 55, 11, and guess what's on bottom? 20. Okay? 85%. Well, 85 over 100. Sorry. Made a mistake. 85 over 100. 5 goes into this, 20. Now most of us haven't memorized. Most of us have not memorized how many nickels go into 85 cents. But if we say 25-cent pieces is equal to $1. Now 85 cents, that's 15 cents less, that's 3 nickels. So 3 nickels from 20 nickels is 17 nickels. And if you wanted to prove that, you just go 17 times 5. 35 and 50 is 85. Ta-da. Okay? Now, 5%. 5 over 100 is 1 over 20. 1 nickel goes in here, 20 nickels goes in there. And 45%, 9 times 5, 20 times 5. So that's how we reduce so many of these numbers where the ones column has 5 in it. Okay, the next ones will be just a little bit harder. The last set of examples deals with probably what's hardest for kids, and that's when we either have numbers in the numerators where you have to divide by 2, reduce by 2, or where we reduce by 4. Now remember, anytime we reduce by 2, that's reducing by 2. Remember 2 times 50, and also remember 4 times 25. Just like 25 times 4 is 100, 4 times 25 is 100. Okay? Now what I've done is I've set up the even numbers where 2 and 4 can go into them from 6 all the way to 14. So let's just see how these work. Okay, 6% is 6 parts out of 100. Now we ask ourselves, which can go into both of these evenly? 2 or 4? Well, 2 can. 2 can. So we get 3 times 2 and 50 times 2. 6% reduces to 3/50. Okay? Now if we move over to 8%, 8 over 100. All right? What's the biggest number that can go into both 8 and 100? Well, 2 can go into both of these, but 4 is bigger. 4 can go into here twice, and 4 can go into here. Remember, 4 quarters makes $1, 25. Okay? Now if we go to 10%, we already have a rule for this. 1/10 But let's just see, if we would have done it 10 over 100 and divided this by 2, we would have got 5 over 50. And if we would have reduced that by 5s, we would have got 1/10. Okay? 12%. 12 parts out of 100. 4 goes into this 3. How many 4s go into here? 4 quarters, 25. If we go to 14%, does 4 go into here? No. 2 does. 2 times 7. 2 times 50. And those really are the toughest problems that you might have for the homework problems 4 through 15. All right? Soon we'll go on to our next section. Okay, now in the bottom part of the homework page, we won't be converting percents to fractions. Instead, we'll convert percents to decimals. Okay? All right? Now, let's just remember that with decimals, if we go decimal point, slot, slot. If we have decimal point, then 2 numbers, remember, this is 17 hundredths. And of course, what does percent mean? It really means hundredths. 17% is 17 hundredths. Okay? Hundredths, cent, same thing basically. Now, let's go to the easy types of problems. 35%, this is so easy. 35 hundredths. Okay? 6%. Now we have to watch out. Lots of people would love to go 0.6, but 0.6 is 6/10. 6 dimes is 60%. No. Remember, we want, if we just say the word hundredths here, so instead of percent we say 6 hundredths. Remember what 6 hundredths is. 0 tens, 6 ones, here we go, 6 hundredths. All right? And then the book is going to ask us that if we have decimals of percents, that we are going to convert it to, first, we convert the percents, which are hundredths. And then anything that comes after this percent point, we're just going to add it on just like that. 0.275 is 27.5%. Next, we'll put things into the levels here and see how we can compute each of those. In the 12 problems that are in numbers 16 through 27, the absolute easiest to convert to decimals are those where we have numbers in both the tens and the one spot of the percent number. These are so easy. 35% is just 35 hundredths, 0.35. 17% is 17 hundredths, 0.17. 23% is 23 hundredths, 0.23. 85% is 85 hundredths, 0.85. It'll get a little trickier in the next level. Problems that have traditionally stumped 6th graders is when we have 6% and we have to convert it into a decimal, and kids without thinking just go 0.6. No, don't do it. Wrong. Okay? Nope, nope, nope. 6% is 6 hundredths. So it's 0.06, not 0.6. 9% is 9 hundredths. So 0.09. We have nothing in the 10th place, and then we have 9 in the hundredths. And then 3% is 0.03. And our next level, the difficulty factor will go up even more. Okay? Harder still are the problems where the percentage number has a decimal in it, and we have to convert this into a decimal. Now, I want us first to think of a percentage number without a decimal. 37% is 37 hundredths, and that is 0.37. Now, I want us to think about that. Now we look at 37.2%, okay? Now, when I first start off, I can make this easy on myself. I can just circle the actual percent in front of the decimal place. And those are going to be the first two numbers. Look, 37%, 0.37. 37%, 0.37. Then whatever is after the decimal, I just add it on. Now that's actually pretty easy, okay? So let's go over to here. 94% is 94 hundredths is 0.94. Now, 94.7, that's 94 hundredths, 0.94. Aha. That comes after the decimal, so we just add it on there. Understand? Okay? Difficulty level is going to go up to the hardest yet. Okay? 6%. It's not 0.6. No. It's 6 hundredths. 0.06. Now look down here. 6.7%. This is tough. But if we think about how we did the others, it's easy. 6 hundredths. 0.06. Now there's 6 hundredths. 6%, 6%, 6 hundredths. Just add on the 7. Ta-da. Okay? The hardest problem. 1%. That's 1 hundredth. 0.01. Now this is, the whole number here is 1%. Here is 1%, which is 1 hundredth. Now after the decimal, you have two numbers, 9-2. So you simply add on the 9-2. Okay? And that'll do it for the homework page for 6-1. Okay?